Welcome to ADCO Aviation. On the 43rd video, we finished installing the Black Max wheels and brakes. And somewhere around the 31st, and again on the 39th video, we discussed building a high-performance antenna based on Dean A. Scott's design and redesign. Today, I'd like to quickly expand on this topic and answer some questions from some of you. Some have tried using this inverted V antenna without much luck on their Eagles. And I'd like to talk about why they may have not had success, but also for us Legal Eagle builders, I thought I may even have a better and lighter solution, and we can discuss to see what y'all think. Of course, once I start flying and have an opportunity to try these firsthand, I'll update you more then. But if any of you test these theories out, let us know below in the comments, or reach out directly to me so we can update the group. Okay, to start off with, we need to make sure to trim the antenna using a SMA meter. I know I mentioned it in the latest video, but I thought I'd go into a little more detail on how I did this. First off, ideally, you'll have a meter that can test air bands from 118 megahertz to 136.995 megahertz, which is all the VHF communication bands used for aviation. Make sure you use your manual that comes with your meter to get the reading from both the 118 megahertz and the 136.995 megahertz side. I'll call this the low and the high side of the frequency range. If the low side gets a higher reading than the high side, your antenna is too short. And likewise, if your low side gets a lower reading than the high side, your antenna is too long. That's why I'd make the antenna whisker a little longer and trim it down to the proper length. I hope this makes sense. If not, there are probably much better videos out there on more detailed steps on tuning your antenna. Our goal is to be below 2.0 and as equal as possible on both ends of the frequencies. And you should be just fine on all of our frequencies. Just a note, it doesn't take much as you trim, maybe 1/8 of an inch or so at a time. Also, they say the best place to tune your antenna is out away from buildings and other obstructions. I know most of us builders aren't radio experts, and if you are, by all means, give us some pointers in the comments below. But as with our builds, we have to become aware of and learn so many different facets of our build. And I thought I'd give some pointers of what I've learned on this subject. With that being said, personally, I think we probably need to tune any antenna using this method, even though if we used the measurement of 22 7/8 inch, we'd probably be fine if we didn't have access to a meter. Also, we must note that Mr. Scott's design was hanging off the boom tail of his weed hopper. As Legal Eagle owners, our airframes are designed a lot differently. We have a 4130 cage like fuselage. When we mount these same antennas, we typically either have the ground whisker or the antenna whisker going down through the framework, which may or may not interfere with the receiving of the signal. My hunch is, for those that built these inverted V antennas and don't seem to work well, if they try to flip them over, they may have better results. It's just a hunch. But with that being said, while researching some of the old home builder or EAA forums, I was reading an article written, I think back in the 70s or 80s, where they were suggesting people to find an old antenna, usually laying around the hangars and airports, where people were upgrading their antennas on their Cessnas and such. I searched for these old antennas and only found a few pictures and maybe a drawing or two, but the details stuck in my mind and made me rethink the whole antenna for our Legal Eagles. Again, for us that have a 4130 fuselage, why can't we use our fuse as our ground plane and attach the same quarter wave antenna out the top? So, with 3D printing at my fingertips, I began to draw a simple isolator to easily isolate the fuse with the antenna bolt whisker. From my research of the old antennas, they didn't come with any BNC connector at the antenna base, so I thought that'd be an extra bonus for us builders in expense and especially weight savings. So let's build one and see what y'all think. First, I took a 1/4 by 20 hex bolt and drilled a hole 1/2 to 1 inch deep down through the head and the center of the bolt. Next, I took a 25-inch long welding rod. We'll trim it with our SMA meters as previously discussed, and soldered it in the hole as we just drilled. I went to Fusion and drew out and 3D printed the needed isolator washers. We need the antenna whisker / bolt to not ever touch the fuselage or ground plane. Since I was planning to use 1/4 inch and 3/8 inch fender washers as support, I made the plastic washers with the same internal and outside diameters. And yes, I'll be happy to share these files. On our airframe, we really need to weld a tab horizontally to the top longeron. This will be our mounting and the start of the grounding plane of our antenna. We need to route the antenna's cable to the perfect location for where we're going to mount the handheld radio. We can cut off the excess cable and strip the wires a few inches or so for now. We need 2 ring connectors, one for a 1/4 inch bolt and one for a 3/8 inch bolt. The 1/4 inch ring connector will be for the center connection of our wire, and the 3/8 inch ring connector will be for the ground or the outer shield. I still plan to use the ferrite ballons, especially since I have them, but like I said before, I'm no expert on what makes these antennas work. But with that being said, the original antennas that I saw from long ago didn't have any ballons that I could see. And since I already have my mounting tabs for the Dean Scott's Way, I may reprint a base similar to the previously shared file and only use one wire out the top and not using the BNC connector. We'll see. I really want to get to more meatier parts of this build and get this thing in the air. One comment I'd like to share: once you think you're almost complete in building your aircraft, you'll find it's a lot of little things that you will still need to finish. But like I stated before, enjoy the build, and we'll have a blast when we're up there in the sky looking down on God's beautiful creation. I hope you've enjoyed this video and hopefully found some of the info helpful for your build. And if you're on the fence about starting a Legal Eagle build, hopefully I've shown you just how easy it can be. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe to my YouTube, Odyssey, or Rumble channels. Thank you, and be safe.